So we'd like to welcome you to the second wealth management session, which is presented through the African Nova Scotian Road to Economic Prosperity Advisory Committee, and we call it REPAC for short. REPAC is a community-driven 5-year strategy to build strong, vibrant, and prosperous African Nova Scotian communities. There are 3 pillars in the REPAC plan. This presentation stems from the 3rd pillar, which is education, employment, and entrepreneurship. I am a co-chair of that committee along with Teresa Jones. Now, of course, there are many areas of work as you try to assist African Nova Scotian communities in being financially prosperous. One of the areas we all need to focus on is our own personal wealth management. We have 2 very experienced experts here that will take you through tonight's topics: debt management, pre and post retirement planning. So I'm going to introduce 2 of them to you. Fred Perry, Senior Financial Advisor, Sentinel Financial Group. Fred is a passionate financial advisor with decades of experience helping his clients maximize their financial outcomes. Fred is a firm believer that the first principle of safe investing is education, and ensures to keep his clients up to date on market trends and how they impact their portfolio. Fred Perry. Howard Williams, life insurance broker, qualified financial services. Howard's focus is helping clients to take their right steps to get their personal and business financial affairs in order. He achieves this by working with them to develop and implement a personalized financial strategy that capitalizes on their current situation while ensuring long-term stability and success. So we're going to get things started with, like I said, these 2 very experienced financial advisors. And somewhere during the course of this, you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions. And also what we want you to pay attention to is their contact information. So if you desire to have, your own personal, what is it, like a presentation with one of these 2 or both, then give them that information and make sure you contact them, and they'll make sure to contact you back and set up a personal, I'm trying to think of the right word.
One-on-one session.
A one-on-one session. Yeah. So here we go. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say hello to everybody and
likewise, like to say hello to you, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of this evening.
Okay, I'm going to get started. One of the things that I would like to talk about, especially when it comes to cash flow management and debt management, which I think is extremely important for the average and even for groomed and well organized in planning their monies and things of that nature. Cash flow, let's talk about it. What is cash flow? Cash flow refers to the net balance of cash moving in and out of a family's budget. Cash flow can be positive, or you can have negative cash flow. Positive cash flow indicates that a family has more money moving in than out of it. Negative cash flow indicates that a family has more money going out. What is debt? We have to build the foundation first. Debt is basically money owed to someone else, which could be a car payment, could be a mortgage payment, it could be credit card payments, or other liabilities that could exist at this present time. It also could be money that comes out of the wallet or pocketbook, out of my bank account, checking account, or savings account. Assets, money you own or invest that accumulates a nice return over time. I want to also throw a little bit of background about collection agencies as well, so that you get a good understanding about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about collection agencies tonight as well. Collection agencies is a debt service, is a process of pursuing payments of debts owed by individuals or businesses. It's an organization that specializes in debt collection and is known as a collection agency or debt collection agency. The agency must be licensed under the Consumer Protection Act and the Collection and Debt Repayment Practice Regulations. Debt collectors are allowed to contact your family, friends, neighbors, employers, and only to get phone numbers and address or to confirm your employment. They cannot discuss your debt with these people, and once they made contact, they cannot call them again. A lot of questions come up when you owe a lot of debt that's out there. Can I go to jail or face imprisonment? The answer is no. No arrest or going to jail for outstanding debt or credit card payments or personal loans or student loans. Most debt or bad debt must come off of your credit report after 7 years. And you can really push that issue. That's something that Howie's going to get into a little bit more deeper. Legal action stops after 6 years. That's pretty much the norm out there. Okay? Now, let's get back into the cash flow and debt management. When we look at our income and we look at our expenses, when income exceeds expenses, you will be fine. That's a positive cash flow. Expenses and income. When expenses exceed income, you're in trouble. We call that negative cash flow. That's why it'd be very interesting for you to have the opportunity to sit down and talk to Howie and I, and let us take a look at your financial situation. And everybody's financial situation is different. And there's no one solution to every problem. There's multiple solutions to solve a person's financial situation. Let's talk about it. Life is a series of cash flow events. Everyone has expenses to pay on a monthly basis. You're hoping to make enough income or cash flow to save and pay off debt and save money. Cash flow is important in your life each month to allow for you to purchase small to big ticket items. Here's something that we recommend highly. When you get your paycheck, or if you pay bi-weekly or weekly or monthly, you should put aside at least every payday 5 to 10% of your savings. Pay yourself first. Second, pay your expenses, whatever is left over. And normally there will be enough money left over. If it's tight, then let's sit down and you might say maybe 3 to 5%. That might be reasonable. But you can't gain anything over time if you're not putting something aside to build for your future. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions so far. Are there any questions so far?
I got one. I'll kick us off.
Okay.
So as you mentioned, cash flow. Do you have any budgeting tips?
We're going to talk about that's in there.
Then never mind.
Okay. Anyone else? They're on mute. They're on.
Yeah. If you do have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Or if you're not comfortable voicing that, you're always welcome to drop your question in the chat as well.
Let's talk about how do you calculate or track and manage your cash flow. Most people that we talk to from a financial advisor standpoint or financial planner standpoint have no system. No system, you're headed for nothing but negative cash flow. People you talk to say, hey, I'll just wing it. Again, very dangerous. you have to know where every dollar is going in your household, because there's a certain amount that's put away for food, there's a certain amount put away for shelter, clothing, and then the other bills that will basically come into play, like credit cards, mortgage payment, rent, all those things have to come. But again, the key is paying yourself first. Even if you started off with $25 or $50, you're still putting away something for yourself. You track that $25 to $50 2 years from now, you got a nice little nest egg sitting in there. And if you track it again for the next 2 years, it's getting bigger, and it's going to continue to get bigger. Pay my bills when I feel like it. Again, you're running the course of danger. How do you maintain cash flow? Having an accounting system that tracks and controls your expenses, and knowing what amount that you want to put away on a savings basis, that whatever's left over. And here are some suggestions. You might want to set up what they call an accounting system like QuickBooks, Excel software, the bookkeeper. You know, these are some of the other ones that are, as you see right there, that you can basically use to your benefit to put your budget in place to make sure that I have debt, income. And you look at that and you say, okay, how much cash flow? And then you look at assets and liabilities. Okay, and you label underneath those things. Give you an example. Let's say if I had debt, I'm going to list all my debt on the right-hand side. So I have a mortgage, I have a car payment, I have various things that I have to pay out. At that particular period of time, you total it all up and take a look.
Hello?
If you don't have the regular system, then I would highly recommend just getting a loose leaf notebook and then list it. Your income and debts at the top of the page, and then you just work your way down and look. And at the end of every month, you want to take a calculation of what has been spent and what has been saved. Extremely important. Cash flow and debt management is needed in every household and every business. Cash flow is what you own. It's the lifeline of your household or business. Cash flow is the movement or flow of money, whether physical or virtual. Money moves in and out of the household and business. The money is used as an exchange in the household to save or pay expenses. Cash flow should be closely monitored, and I have said that already, to ensure that you optimize your financial health and household or business needs. Why is cash flow important? It keeps the household balanced, money available for personal use and business use if needed. I can even throw in emergency use as well. How do I calculate cash flow? How do I track cash flow? How do I manage cash flow? Let's move forward. Well, here's how I actually calculate cash flow. Net income monthly. Let's say that John had an income of $3,000 a month. He works for the government. Let's say that his wife, Wendy, she's a purchasing agent, so she makes approximately $4,000. Total, and this is net income, is $7,000. The current monthly bills that they have to pay, as you can see, there's $1,800 for a mortgage, CIBC credit card, Visa credit card. They have a balance of $1,000, but they pay $150 on that. Car payment, they owe approximately $10,500, but their monthly payment is $481.22. And then if you look at the personal loan situation, hey, they owe $7,500, and their monthly payments is $138.12. Next. As you can look here, John and Wendy's current financial situation. If we looked at the mortgage debt on a balance of $235,000, it would take them approximately paying $1,800 a month, 131 months, which works out to approximately 11 years remaining. If they had their CIBC, their monthly payment was 150 on that 1,000, it would be 7 months. You take the car payment, if they continue to do the same thing that they're doing under their current situation, 10,500, it would take them 22 months to pay that off at 481.22, which is 1.8 years. And then when you look at the personal loan situation, paying 7,500, 54 months is 4.5 years. When you look at it, you total all those monthlies up, it take them 214 months. 214 months equals 17.83 years. So the current situation of John and Wendy, their total debt owed was $254,000. Total monthly debt expenses was $2569.37. If I subtract that from a 7,000, they still have positive cash flow in the household of $4,430.63. The other miscellaneous debts are gas, oil, car insurance, life insurance, food, which is approximately $1,500 a month, and your monthly disposable income left over would have been around about $2,930 instead of $4,430. So one of the things that discussing this type of method, we thought about the snowball method. The snowball method is a way of showing you how to get rid of debt. The recommended solution here, as you can see up here, was $2,930. That was money that what we call disposable income or leftover money or discretionary money. Those are all the same thing. They said that this client said that they can put out $500 extra to apply to my bills per month until it's paid off. They had no problem in doing it. They could have put more, but they said 500 was very comfortable. So the first debt that we took was the CIBC Visa card. You take 1,000 and say, okay, we say, okay, 650, which would they still paying the minimum amount, which is 3% of that bill there, which came to 150 plus $500, which is 650, and it only takes them 1.54 months to pay off that bill at 650. That's pretty good. Then we move to the personal loan payment. As we're doing this, we are subtracting the months that they did pay in those X number of dollars for this other one. So then we had to take the 138 and add it to the 650 to come up with the figure of $780, $88.15. Going into this, it would take them 9 months. Well, they say 9 months. The car payment situation, it was paid off. So now their personal loan is done. Now we move to the car payment. The car payment is down, as you can see, down to $5,153.87. But again, if we add the car payment into this factor here, now the 788 jumps to $1,267.37 because we have a game plan here and a system to follow. As you can see here, at $1,267.37, actually 4 months, pay it off. Pretty good. Now the mortgage is slowly coming down after all these months and things of that nature. And as you can see there, the mortgage payment was around $1,800. So when we added the $1,800 into this process, as you can see, and we came up with the factor of 67, well, you can say roughly 68 months, which would take that mortgage to be paid off in 6 years. So the total monthly to pay off was 82 months, 0.38, as you can see there, or or you can say 7 years if you want to be exact, but you can round it up. So the total monthly current was 214 months, 17 years to actually pay it off. If you subtract the difference between those two, you can see the amount of money that we saved. In the monthly side, we saved 131 months. In the yearly side, we saved, say, 11 years. I think that's unique. Debt-free. Now, it's up to the person to still keep their system in place, to manage their system professionally, and to make sure that now, if they want to pour money into investments, or to pour money into RSPs, saves, those type of things. Now they have the disposable income to do it and not living from paycheck to paycheck. They got money to take vacations and things of that nature and still be able to have money even when they come back home.
Do you want to give a moment for questions just in case?
Are there any questions?
There's a lot of that.
Are there any questions? Now, one of the things that we noticed that there's a lot of math, but the time is that we can sit down with you and we can go over this process with you, and we will come up with different numbers for you as well to show you how to extinguish your debt, get rid of it. Any questions?
I have a question, Sherry Bernard.
Go ahead.
The question I have is, I understood everything that you said,
Yes.
except for when it comes to the mortgage,
Yep.
because sometimes they don't allow you to pay any more than a certain percentage of the mortgage a year.
But you can apply a certain amount out of your pocket directly on the principal, which will drop that principal substantially. If you read your contract, a lot of times they will allow for you to do that.
Yeah, they will at a certain
You have
time.
to tell them that I would like to apply this directly to the principal. And as long as you can apply that directly to the principal, hey, they know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get that thing out of there. And what they're trying to do is collect as much interest as they can from you. And what you're doing
Absolutely,
is interest, you're cutting the profit in their pocket to put the profit back in your pocket.
right.
Yes.
But I had a situation very similar at one point in time.
Yes.
But I did my mortgage bi-monthly. Bi-weekly, which
Okay.
allowed me an extra payment over a year, which cut
Yeah.
the payments, the total mortgage down. But the
Right.
other thing that sometimes happens is that at the end of your, like if you renew for 3 years,
Yes.
then it's open and you can put a bunch of money down at that point in time.
Yes.
But if you don't have that to do, they don't allow you to say pay extra per month. That's been my experience.
Okay. Well, most of my clients, they're able to do that. They're able.
Okay.
I go in and I talk to the banker and I tell the banker exactly what they're trying to do.
Right.
And when we get in there, it's pretty nice. The bank don't give me no hassles. Matter of fact, they're nervous because they know that I'm a type of person that know what they know across the table.
Yes, true. I see what you mean. They can fool us. We don't have that
And what I want
knowledge.
to do, and I ask them, are there any penalties before we start to do this? Because if there's penalties, then we have to continue to wait, just every year drop a lump sum in there, and we can save that money, put that money in what we call a savings account. And then when we run that money from the savings account towards their principal, is unique.
Yeah. Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Year, or we can do it over a monthly basis. It all depends on the financial institution.
Okay,
Okay, good question.
thank you.
Anyone else? Evidently, it seems like there's no other questions at this present time, so I'm going to turn the floor over to Howard, and Howard's going to do his thing.
All right. Oh, thanks, Fred. It was very interesting. In being in this industry, basically, what my colleague Fred just went through is what we all do. However, I just want to point out that I have a special passion when it comes to dealing with debt, financial debt. And what I'm going to share with you right now is something that I would really like to share with, especially people just getting started into the financial world. So it's take that into consideration. As I go along, you will understand why. So let me first just go through this, and hopefully both Fred and I can get some questions from you. I've entitled my presentation, "The Financial Aspect of Dealing with Debt." In a perfect world, none of us would have to worry about having to have debt. However, there are some things in this life that requires many of us to use credit in order to possess tangible things such as a home, a car, our education, furniture for our homes, and other things as well. If we meet the lending criteria required by the lending institutions, we usually are able to acquire a loan or credit receipt. And since we're using someone else's money, we must pay this money back over a certain term, including a fee known as interest. Now, the name of the game is to make sure and pay all your regular payments on time to show your credit worthiness and to build up your credit score for future borrowing, which is very important going forward in the financial world. There's a saying out there, if you start on the right track, more than likely you will finish on the right track. So let's look at the starting point in the financial world. And I'm going to pose this question to you. When did you first encounter your own personal world of money? Was it when your parents gave you an allowance? Or was it when you were the paper boy or paper girl delivering papers? It could have been cutting someone's lawn. Or was it your first job away from home? Could have been when you completed your degree or trade school course. When you received your first pay, did you examine it? Was it the amount that it was supposed to be? Were there any deductions? And if so, what were they? And what were they for? All right, so now you have a permanent job and you have some money in your pocket. So what's the game plan? Where do you go from here? Naturally, you need to open up a bank account if you don't have one already. Secondly, you may have some bills to pay, such as your student loan, your rent, your groceries, and other things. Or maybe you're still living at home with your parents. In any event, who do you pay first? The first person that you pay is yourself. And you heard my colleague Fred mention that as well. And that is so very true. The first person you pay always is yourself. Every time you get paid, always remember, no matter what, pay yourself first. When it comes to how to handle money properly, one of the most important principles that we all need to keep in mind is discipline. Discipline, especially handling money, is so very, very important. Many people want what they want, and they want it now. No matter what kind of hoops they have to jump through, it doesn't really matter as long as they achieve attaining what it is that thereafter. Sometimes that means they end up borrowing funds from a second-class lender, which requires the borrower to pay a considerably higher interest rate. The sad part about it is most of these loans are for luxury items like a car, an expensive toy, or high brand clothing, for instance. By the time they realize it's too late to take care of paying on their monthly payments. They have also their monthly loans, the credit cards, fuel for the car, maintenance on the car, groceries, utility bills, car insurance, rent, mortgage, and other expenses. And they find that there's never enough money to go around. And as each month passes, it just keeps getting worse. Some people find themselves totally depressed and don't know what to do. On top of all that, you now have collection agencies calling you, threatening you for money owed to creditors. And there seems to be no way out. Well, there is a way out, but you will have to be willing to endure some turbulence and make some necessary sacrifices. And if you take the advice of a good financial advisor who has your interests at heart, he or she will work with you and eventually get you back on solid financial ground. So after I work with you or another great advisor to get you back on solid financial ground, we are going to get you established in the financial world the way you should have started from the first time. Oh, did I say that in order to do this, you will have to make some changes and be prepared to sacrifice some things to aid in getting you back on track? Failing to do this simply means that you will probably be battling financial matters all your natural life, and nobody needs that. Time does not permit me to go through the complete process right now, but I will give you the basis. First, we must assess who you owe money to and how much do you owe them. We will look at your disposable income. We will look at your required family living expenses and any medical needs. We will look at your assets that can be sold to generate funds. Example, maybe a luxury car, and maybe purchase a smaller economical car for now, which is less expensive to run. After assessing all the facts, we may look at trying to arrange a consolidation loan. And in doing so, we may offer creditors a settlement amount. In many cases, they will settle for a lesser amount than owed. After we get our plan of action in place, we will work the plan and will eliminate this financial dilemma. So after these debts are all paid off, where do we go from here? Well, after the celebration, we will begin to rebuild on a solid foundation with a good, sturdy footing. That savings account that we set up when we put our plan in action so that we could still allow you to pay yourself first, we will now decide how much to increase that payment to monthly, because we approach the bank with a loan within the next 24 months. If we approach the bank for a loan in the next 24 months, you will have demonstrated that you have consistently saved on a regular basis. And this will strengthen your request in getting the loan. The idea is to request a loan that does not exceed the amount in your savings, including financial charges. Therefore, the bank has protection, and you can have the opportunity to rebuild your credit worthiness. Now, because your past history is not pretty, the bank may require that you use your savings account as collateral to secure your requested loan. Don't worry about this, because you need to demonstrate that you are serious about rebuilding your credit. After a number of years of you continuing to save regularly and making certain to pay your loan or loans on time, you will eventually rebuild your credit, and your credit score will be in excellent standing as well. So in conclusion, in case you don't know, there are ways to check exactly what's on your credit report at the different credit bureaus. And if it's a good idea to do so, after you pay off a debt, you need to make sure that the lender has advised the credit bureau that your loan has been satisfied in full. Creditor information will stay on your credit report for a period of 6 years from the date it was filed, or 3 years after it is paid in full. In another segment, I will do a complete presentation on collection agencies, including liens and judgments and how they work. I will also let you know your rights in dealing with collection agencies in detail. I have worked in this industry, and I will provide you with all the firsthand information. Hopefully, you will never have to deal with them, but just in case, it's good to know your rights. Thank you. So
Okay.
now, we want to know if you have any questions at all.
Hello?
Yeah, Quinn, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So removing items from your credit after they're paid, how do you go about doing that?
Okay, after
After you paid it off, what do you need?
that something is on your at the credit bureau on your report.
Yeah, after you pay it off, how do you get it removed immediately? What's the
Okay,
steps
first
you
of all,
take?
the lender where you had that loan should do it automatically. And
Okay,
if you do a check and you have given them at least 30 days and it's still there, the first step would be to call them and question how come it's still not showing paid.
okay, you have to give them 30 days is what you're saying?
I'm just using that.
Okay,
Okay, it doesn't have to be 30 days, but at least that gives them enough time in case they say, yeah, we haven't got around to it, sort of deal.
okay. And are they supposed to send you a letter when you've paid it off?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
They don't have to send you a letter, to my recollection, but it's imperative that they let the credit bureau know that this particular loan has been satisfied.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. More questions?
Also, one of the keys is that there's basically the credit bureaus, they say there's 3, but you mostly have Equifax, TransUnion, and Experior is the new one that's out there. I guess Experior has been around for a while, but nobody uses Experior. But now Experior is starting to get a lot of communication with the general public, and it's a good idea to check your credit. And if you have something on your credit report that extends beyond 7 years, you can write to the credit bureau and say, why is this still sitting on my credit report? It should have been deleted from your credit report. Even if it was a bad debt, it's still supposed to be deleted after 7 years. Any other questions?
Can you guys speak more about obtaining account worthiness?
Speak more about credit worthiness.
Credit worthiness, that's right, yeah.
Is that
there other
correct?
methods with banks, other ways of doing that?
Yeah, so, well, one of the things that happens with a lot of us is that when you first get into the financial world, you really don't know what to do. And let's face it, we're not taught this in school.
No.
One of the key things that I would suggest that all people do when they first get into the financial world, when they do get a job and they have regular income coming in, one of the first things you need to do is open up at least a savings account and consistently put a fair amount of money into that account every time you get paid, and continue to do it. And when you can increase it, increase it. Keep putting that money into that account, because what's happening here, you are building up your credit worthiness. You're also increasing your credit score. And when you do go to the bank to get a loan, if you have to, and they see that, it makes all the difference in the world. Because one of the things they're going to say, if this person is consistent in saving like this, they're more than likely going to be consistent in paying their monthly payment on this loan. Not to mention the fact that you have a huge amount built up collateral in your account. So that is where you should start, and it's so crucially important. And if you start off in that manner, more than likely you're going to have a good financial life. And the other thing is, I mentioned in my talk about discipline, one of the things that we have to really do is make certain that we do discipline ourselves. And if I might just share with you a story with my own personal life. Like when I was young, the first thing that I wanted was a fancy car. I didn't care where the money come from or whatever, just give me the money so I can get this car. As I look back, I realized I should have been looking for maybe a 4-cylinder car and taking my excess money and putting in the bank. So that's just an example, because the greater joys of life can come later when you have established yourself and you have yourself in a good financial position.
Give you another example. Let's say if you had a credit card, let's say they had a $1,000 limit. There's only a certain percentage of that credit card that you're supposed to spend. 30%, max of 40%. If you go beyond that, you're more going to be probably in some type of financial difficulty with that particular credit card organization. And that's extremely important, because a lot of people don't know that that credit card, even though you have a $1,000 limit, they say pay it off in 19 to 21 days, that you won't extinguish that 19% or 12% or 5% interest that goes to the bank. It's extremely important that you understand those factors, because if you understand that, these are good risks. Maybe 2 years down the road, they might increase the amount from 1,000 to 2,000 because you are a good credit risk. The other thing, line of credit. Most people have line of credit when they buy properties and they get the line of credit. So let's say if I had a line of credit of approximately 200,000. Most people think in their minds that if I had 200,000 and I took out the 200,000 and I only used 10,000, I still got to pay the loan on the 200,000. No, you only pay on the amount that you have used, which was 10,000. So that 190,000 is still sitting there, which you don't have to pay on. And normally you pay simple interest on that, not compound interest on a line of credit. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Carrie
Hi,
Marshall.
Carrie.
Hi, how are you?
Very
I
good.
have a question regarding, good, thank you, good. I have a question regarding paying yourself first. You talk about paying yourself first.
Yes.
Is are RSPs and GICs and TFSAs considered paying yourself first? Or are you saying separately have a bank account as well? Or are they considered paying yourself first?
Well, I'll take that one.
Okay.
To have an RSP or tax-free savings account, whatever, they're great to do. But what we were referring to is open up that savings account and drill that money into that savings account first. For a number of reasons, the money is liquid. And if you need to have access for it because of an emergency or something that did come up, it is there. But the main goal is to leave that money there and keep building on it. In addition, set up other types of investments as well. And that's where Fred and I would come in, because we would help you to structure your whole portfolio in doing that. Because the other thing that must be taken into consideration as well, we got to make sure that your life is prepared for living. There's things, as you know, that come into play, such as your rent or your mortgage or the different things that we already talked about. Those things must be taken into consideration first. But it's important that you do set up that pay myself first and put that money aside into that savings account and continue to do it. It'll do amazing things for you in the future.
Also,
Perfect.
also with the RSPs and the TFSAs, yes, that's part of your disposable income that you can afford to put that money aside to build for your financial future. Where the RSP, if you try to go into that, normally there's penalties when you want to take that money out before you reach the age of retirement. With the TFSA, it's 100% tax-free. So when you want to take that money out, you can use that as like a little emergency fund if you want to set it up that way, because that money is regularly available and there's no taxes on that money whatsoever. And that's the beauty of having the luxuries of knowing that a TFSA allows for you to have a variety of options, where the RSP has probably 3 options. That's the new home buyer's plan that you can have on there, and the lifetime learning, and also your retirement plan. So there's 3 options that they give you with that RRSP, which is a registered savings plan. And with the tax-free savings account, you can really bounce off. And what my partner just said about the savings account that you would have structured in your household would be very, very unique. So then if you got into financial difficulties, the first area that you could go to would probably be, which we would recommend, would be the savings account. And if things got a little heavy and you had quite a sum of money in your TFSA, that's the next account to go for. The RSP, just let it continue to keep doing what it's doing, and it will do the things that you do. Get the tax deduction every year on that money, and there's ways of how to plan that, but we would ask that you would sit down with an advisor and really structure that thing properly to look at the pros and cons of an RSP and why you are in that RSP. Because some of the questions that we ask people, why do you have life insurance? Why do you have a registered retirement savings plan? Why do you have a TFSA? We ask those questions. And so people
Great.
have to
Thank
come
you
up
so
with
much.
answers. Well, I'm in the
Right.
I'm in the TFSA because I want to have a little emergency money there just in case things got a little tight around the household. Bang. What about if little Johnny played hockey and he needs skates, or he needs another part of uniform because he outgrew that uniform? He needs a hockey stick. Well, those are the plans that you can go in and take the money out and take care of that. What about little Johnny and little Susie played basketball? There's another one. Okay. New sneakers, their feet are growing. Okay. It's unique. So these are the things that you actually use these plans for, to make it unique in your household so that you're not going into other disposable income. That's what those things are set aside for, to do those things for you in your household. Now we talk about the other thing. Most people don't replace that money that they took out of that program. They should put that money back into the program because it's unique. You took it out, put it back in, and then let it grow again.
Thank you for the information.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I got one. So if you were to have, like, if you're in the process of repairing your credit, and you started today,
Yes.
How long before you start to see that impact in your profile? Like, how long is usually like a credit repair program? Like, what does that look like?
Most credit repair programs are going anywhere from 10 months to a year in credit repair. Okay. Sometime, if it's still bumpy, it can extend to 15 months to 2 years. But it's totally up to the individual how aggressive they want to be in basically betting their credit, or are they just laid back and lazy and they say, look, I just put a little bit of money here, but I'm winging it for now. If you're winging it, you're going to be still with the negative cash flow. If you have a system in place, you're going to get that taken care of, and it's going to get taken care of quick, and then you're going to establish your credit, and bang, you're off running again.
Can I interject one thing? I wanted to just say it also depends on your financial power. Do you have the financial power to make the necessary adjustments to move your hit faster? You know, and some things you might have, if you want to do it fast, you might have to make some sacrifices.
Yep.
You might have to give up something.
That's right.
You might have to sell that beautiful luxury car. It
Because-
depends.
Because a lot of the homes that we go into, a lot of the people in these homes, a lot of the people living from paycheck to paycheck, which is sometimes very, very difficult, where they don't have the disposable income. But everybody that we have had the opportunity to talk to can at least put away $25 a month. But they got to make some sacrifices, just what my partner said, Howie. You got to make sacrifices to make things happen for you and your family. And that's very, very important. Maybe I'm driving a Cadillac, but maybe I should be driving a Golf, you know, or maybe a Kia, okay, because it's a lot less expensive. Gas is costing out of the roof right now for people. Have you been able to organize yourself with the gas situation? Food is going through the roof. Everywhere you go to buy food now, food like milk, just take milk. Milk went from 4 something to 6 something now. That's kind of crazy. So these are the things that you have to really look at. That's why we talk about have a system and just don't wing it and no system. Okay. Yeah, you can post it.
All right, give me a second.
The next session we're going to get into is pre and post retirement. We're going to try to keep it as simple as possible because it can become very complicated. And what I have tried to do is I tried to break it down so that we can walk through the steps.
You have to give me a second.
Okay. Okay, as you can see right now, the screen is basically showing you pre-retirement planning, but I have I'm just going to go backwards here, and I have something that I put on the screen here, but I want to go backwards where we are. Right.
What are you looking for? It's not on your computer, it's mine.
Okay, hold on. Let's see, it's on my, it's on my computer. Hold on. Okay, let's talk about accumulation. Most of us today are in the pre-retirement phase. So if we're in the pre-retirement phase, what type of investments do I want to get involved in to determine your monthly or annual goals that you would like to invest? You can determine through RSPs, you can determine through TFSAs, or even non-registered investments. And I will get into those as I move forward. Determine how long you want to invest and how much money you will need in the future. Okay, that's extremely important. You could determine these approximate ages or years you want to retire or how much you want monthly or yearly to live on. This must be managed properly to overcome the corrections in the stock market. When you hear the word correction, they are so smart in the financial world to use the word correction. But the word correction to me means, oops, the market has just took a nosedive. That's what the word correction means to me, being a financial advisor. And in that market, they say buy low, sell high. And the other one is the hold. But we don't know what the markets are going to do because for the simple reason is the stock market, to me, has a mind of its own. If there's war in certain areas, that can affect the stock market. If there's bad weather, that can affect the stock market. Political problems, that can affect the stock market. And you can see that all these things that can affect the stock market is not good. So when I talk about the accumulation side, how much money are you putting into stocks? How much are you putting into mutual funds? Mutual fund says that I'm one investor that's investing my money in a variety of investments. There could be pharmaceutical, government, banking, and etc. It could be a variety of those. In order for you to lose all your money in that mutual fund or segregated fund, what would basically happen here is that they would have to go under. And that's not likely in today's world. Segregated funds, I like segregated funds better than mutual funds, and I'll tell you my reason why. Segregated funds are your insurance company's mutual fund, but they're insured mutual funds. What do I mean by that? If you stay into a mutual fund, a segregated fund for 10 years, they guarantee 75% of your principal. So if I put in 10,000, I'm guaranteed 7,500, but I got to stay in there for 10 years. I do get all the volatility, the ups and downs as a mutual fund would get, but the key here is the segregated fund guarantees 75% of my principal payment. Now, I get a lot of people that are in the mutual funds, they will say, well, the MERs are much higher in segregated funds, which is a management expense ratio. That's what MER stands for. And what we basically say to them, what do you want? Do you want the guarantees or do you want to still play with the volatility, the ups and downs? And that's pretty dangerous out there. Now, if you went 15 years in a segregated fund, they guarantee 100% of your principal. So if you put 10 grand in, as long as you ride it out for 15 years, you guaranteed 100%. Still the same volatility from year 1 to year 15. Then people talk about investing into real estate. Real estate is a very good investor, but if you want to sell off that real estate, that's the key. Can you make money? Are there buyers immediately ready to buy? Sometimes people trying to sell real estate as a real estate investor, it might take forever for a good buyer to give you the price that you want. Okay? People are always trying to nosedive you, but you got to be careful in those particular areas. So under the pre side here, there's GICs or GIAs, which stands for Guaranteed Investment Accounts, and GICs is Guaranteed Income Certificate. We say par whole life because par whole life has never lost money in the markets. Never has. And it's not even affected by the market, which makes it a very good investment. Some people, when they have paid off their property, they use their properties as a reverse mortgage. Now, one of the things that I'm going to propose to everybody that's listening tonight, when you paid off your house, do you think that you own it 100%? Most people will probably say yes. Default in your property taxes and see that you really own that property if you have paid that property completely off. The sheriff would be out your door saying, hey, you haven't paid your property taxes. And that can become nasty. So in the long-term piece, really look at with reverse mortgages. I always tell people with the reverse mortgage, use the reverse mortgage. You've paid all that money over your lifetime. Have some extra money coming back into your household. The reverse mortgage is great. And the nice thing about a lot of reverse mortgages is that you don't have to make a payment on that. So if you die, hey, it's left to the ones that want to, or the real estate company, I mean, the banks can take over that property. So what you would do is you would buy a life insurance policy for whatever the amount that you took out on that mortgage, and that should offset the thing so that you're good. And I always tell the kids to buy something on that if you're going to use the reverse mortgage concept, the CHIP plan. Bitcoins is something that's, I always say, try the market to see what it's about. What I normally recommend in this area, try $250 and see what your returns will be. It could be a lot of money. It can even be zero, or it can even stay at 250. But Bitcoins is something, this digital money is starting to come into place along with the blockchain. And I'm telling you, it's becoming the thing of the future as people are starting to see because it's more secured money. Okay? Place these financial tools in your RSP and TFSA or non-registered account and just take a look and see what they will do for you. Post-retirement planning. I tell you, when I walk into a lot of people's households and I see that they're retired, and I look at what their financial planners have, these guys have these people on stock accounts with lots of volatility. So let's say if you're getting $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and you're used to getting that $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Let's say that the market has a correction, the market takes a nosedive. You're not going to get $3,000 to $4,000 every month. Now that's going to drop based on whatever the investment is doing in that market. So you really have to sit down and plan extremely hard to make sure that what type of investments that I can get into. Now, there's another thing that always comes up with people in this particular area. People will ask the question, what about if I run out of money? Well, there's vehicles that we can recommend that you could have a mix of. So you can have a RIF, you can have an annuity, and a life annuity will outlive you. So you know that that money will be there forever and a day. If you have a RIF, you have the luxuries of flexibility in that account. Like if you want to, I just had a client the other day, has a RIF with me, and she took out $18,000 that she needed that to pay off something, which I said, hey, that's fine. If you need that money to do something, that's fine. But remember, when she got that money, I always say, do you want the net or do you want the gross? She said, I want the net. So the company already took care of the taxes for her in that situation, which is good. This is where you and your financial professional should meet to discuss other options to ensure you would be okay. This is extremely important. Post-retirement planning, I've walked into households that people have their money in growth stocks, very aggressive stocks. I say, what are you doing? You gotta do some planning here. You gotta change up here. And I said, let's take a look at what could be very beneficial for you at this period of time. Maybe you might be better off in a balanced fund. Maybe you might be better off in a bond. Maybe you might even be better off in a GIC. Because the GIC is not losing you any money, but it's not giving you a great return, but you're not losing any money. What financial tools do you have in your financial toolbox? Do you have RSPs, registered funds by GICs or GIAs, or segregated funds, mutual funds, stocks, high risk, mid-range investments, low risk investors? And let me ask you the question. When that financial advisor sits down and talk to you, do they do what they call an investment profile with you and take lots of notes based on what you want in that household? Because the investment profile will tell you whether you're low risk, mid-range risk, or high risk when you're looking to invest your money in the marketplace. Just remember that a TFSA funded by all of the above, the investor must use what we call a risk profile. Non-registered investments, also a risk profile. Chip reverse mortgage, if properties are fully paid off. It's great for properties that are fully paid off because I see so many people saying they're going to give their properties to their children. You worked all your life. Your children's working a regular job right now. Hey, enjoy your life with the amount of money that you put aside. How can you protect that you want to provide money for your children? Have a nice size life insurance policy that can basically be passed on to them 100% tax-free. I'll say it again. In that scenario there, you could have a life insurance policy that would be, let's say, for $250,000, maybe even $500,000, maybe even $1 million, if you could afford that. Or maybe you and the kids share in the amount that you want to have for that life insurance. So you would be the insured, and they would come in and insure you as they're taking an investment in this situation. And I tell you, it's beautiful. Because the nice thing about life insurance, it doesn't go through probate. It passes outside of probate into the hands of the beneficiary within 20 to 30 days if all the paperwork is in. If there's some discrepancy, it might take a little while before the actual monies is actually paid out. But the insurance company says, hey, I'm ready to pay them proceeds. And normally it's clean, the big check comes, you can take it in a lump sum. And let's say, for God forbid, if the person's not really good with money, you have another choice. You don't have to put it in a lump sum. You can put it into an annuity that will pay this individual monthly income every single month, which is beautiful. So those are things that people should be talking about when you're trying to properly plan for your retirement once you start to collect those dollars at retirement. Here's an example. Let's take a male, age 40. Yearly income 60,000, that's 5,000, 60,000. What would he need to maintain 60,000 every year? He needs to have in that account at least a minimum of $857,000 in that account. The recommended solution would be RSP, which would give him $2,857, 14 per month for 300 months, which is $34,285. This is mathematical, it's already been done. Plan to retire at age 65. 70% of the 60,000 would be what? 42,000. So he's comfortable with living on an income of $3,500 a month once he hits retirement age. How much money would he need at an interest rate of 7% to maintain his 42,000? He would need 600,000. The recommended solution is RSP with 2,000 per month for 300 months. As you can see here, that's what they would have to put in, which would be $24,000 a year. Times that times 25, you got your 600,000. And another choice could be 75% of your RSP, 25% of a TFSA. That's just giving you a blend of mix. The choices to pay retirement income could be a RIF, an annuity, par whole life, your pension, whether it's a defined contribution plan or a defined benefit plan. Let's just talk briefly about a defined contribution plan. Defined contribution plan is the risk is on you to pick the right investments as being the pensioner. On a defined benefit plan, the risk is on the company to provide those long-range pension monthly income benefits. Where people get into trouble with a defined contribution plan, they should have their financial advisor sit down with them and go over this before they sign on the dotted line with a defined contribution plan. And then they should meet yearly to go over that to make sure that they're striving in the right investments, because if they're not, it could be some difficult days down the road when you get ready to retire. So, questions and answers. Any questions?
Not everybody at once now.
That's why I said I tried to keep it as simple as possible, because what normally happens is that you have the accumulation side and then you have the distribution side. The accumulation side is I'm growing my wealth. Distribution side, now what type of income they're going to give me. What vehicles can I use? I can use a RIF, I can use an annuity. For the distribution side, I can use the TFSA, I can use a reverse mortgage, I can use the savings account, I can use our whole life, and you can use money from real estate investing. It's your choice. On the accumulation side, what investments are you using to get you to that pinnacle, that utopia? The day that you get ready to retire, how much money will you have in the pot that will be able to generate 70% of your yearly income? Is extremely important.
And I just wanted to say, Fred, that that's what we do. We will help them to position for those types of things, right?
Yes, yes.
To make sure that they're on the right street.
That's right. And let me say something to you. When I said to you that most people today, with the cost of living going through the roof, have you done your retirement planning with your financial advisor? And I really stand really strong with that. Have you done the retirement planning? Have you done that in a professional way to make sure that, hey, I will have the X number of dollars that will be placed in the pot for me the day I get ready to retire? If you didn't do that, then you would have difficulties, lots of them.
And we also have a tendency to let them know the ones that have favorable tax treatment.
Yes. Yeah. Because tax treatment is extremely very important, because I had another client the other day that was a brand new client that came over to me, and the financial advisor that she had put her in the wrong type of investments because she's in her retirement age. And the retirement age that they put her in was she was losing $2,000 in her investment every year. And she said, being in a retirement age, that's difficult for me. And so we discussed it, and I said, first thing we're going to do is get it out of the RSP and move it into a RIF. Because if you needed money on emergency, you're going to be hit with the withholding tax and also your marginal tax rate. And she said, well, I don't want to be hit like that, so let's get it over to a RIF, and you only hit at your marginal tax rate. So we did that planning for her, and now the first day that she put it in, I think she made over $900 first day in her account. First day, she was lucky. It doesn't happen like that all the time, but she was lucky.
Let's
Now there's something else up there.
There's a question there.
Okay, good.
So the question is, when should someone start planning for retirement? I hope to retire in just over 9 years, but I know I have, I want to say, large expenses, some expenses near retirement, tuition, etc. So I think the question is, when should someone start planning for retirement, and maybe a little bit of discussion around how to manage some of those expenses near retirement as well.
Okay, you want to go with it or you want me?
Well, I'll start and you can tail it off.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, the sooner the better. It's very important, because what you got to do, you got to build up the different financial vehicles that's going to support your retirement. And if that is not done, it's kind of hard to achieve the kind of income that you would like to have when you retire. The other thing that's important, as I mentioned, people such as Fred and I, we can direct you into what's the best vehicles to use. Because we like to sit down and find out from you now, how much income would you like to be receiving when you retire? and we structure things around that so that you can, upon retiring, be receiving that kind of income, if it's at all possible with what we have to work with. So the answer to that question is as soon as humanly possible. Sit down with your advisor and do it.
Normally I would give the client a little time if they have children and they're raising their children till they get to, so I would say roughly 25 years, unless they're going to graduate school and things of that nature. So let's say 40 normally is a good age to start really filing money in. But I do agree with my partner saying that you should start as early as possible. $25, $30, $100, $50. Hey, that's building towards your future. How do you wrap your head around your education component? The education component is very, very expensive today. That debt seems like it's never going to run away from you. And what I recommend in that particular area is you need to sit down with a financial advisor and then look at how much disposable income that you really want to put on that tuition to get rid of it. And it takes planning in that particular area to do that. We don't want to stress you out where you can't live because you're paying for tuition. What we like to do is get you on track to say, at least you're doing something to get rid of that debt and any other expenses that would occur at that present time. So let's say, for instance, that you start off, and let's say that it would take you 5 years to delete this type of thing. And let's say you're pouring like $300 or $400 a month, or maybe $500. Just imagine. After 5 years, you can dump quite a bit in there after you distinguish that tuition, because tuition are hurting a lot of the young people today. It's like having a mortgage, and that's not good. We have to find angles and ways of how to free up money for people. I have a book that a lot of people say that the United States gives better tuitions, but do you know that Canada has better tuition ways of paying off your tuition, and you can get by that free? But that book, I lent it out to a client, and I have never got it back from the client, because the client tells me all the time that this book is wonderful. I'm not even paying for nothing. Every time I turn around, another check is coming into the house for my daughter's education. I said, that's great. So, like, those are type of things that you have to look for. There's a lot of grants in Canada for kids.
What's the name of the book?
I don't know the type. It just says education. I will get the book for them. And next session, when I come back, I will give that name of the book.
Please.
That's a great question. And when you see the book, it's going to blow your mind, because how I got the book was I attended a real estate investment webinar in Toronto. The seminar cost $3,500, and it was for a weekend. And I tell you, it was very enlightening. And once we finished, we were able to get all these books. And so when I'm traveling on an airplane, I got books about 5 different types of loose leaf notebooks with all this wisdom and knowledge in. And it's a great book to really follow by.
For personal reasons, if nothing else.
Okay.
Living with that student loan myself.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Kim?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Are there any other questions for Howie or Fred? Well, what we like to do is we like to say that we do make house calls. And if you don't like house calls, then we can also streamline you in, and we can talk through the virtual way, like we're doing here tonight. So if you guys are interested, just say, hey, I'm interested in having a chat about that, and we can get into it, and we can have a really good time of talking about it and how to organize your financial situation. Howie and I have 47 years in the financial service business, just so that you know. and Howie has over 40 some odd years. So between the both of us, we're pushing 90 years in this business. We've seen a lot.
I want to see a lot of them.
Yes. All right, so we want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight. I think we all learned quite a bit. Also, I want you to stay tuned for our next session. Not exactly sure what the topics are yet, but we will have that and get that to you. And hopefully you can tell others so we can access more people. This information is information that I wish I had when I was 40 years younger than what I am now. And of course, thank Fred and Howard for their expertise as we continue to go. Actually, I think we're going to try to take this throughout all of the province, and it's just good information, good financial information, and that's it for me. So thank you very much for spending some time with us.
I want to say thank you to everybody and my partners as well.
I would like to say thank you as well. And even if a question comes up that you think about later and you want to throw it at us next time, don't hesitate.
Thank you, gentlemen.